Today's conference was all about looking at what economic information is available about the North and what is absent. And really, moving forward from today, it's clear that we have an extreme deficit regarding the amount of information that is not available on our local economy. One of the things that I think is particularly important is those economies that have access to good quality economic information are also those economies that are performing well and best in terms of economic growth. We're just emerging from a serious recession. We didn't have enough data at the time the recession hit in order to measure and understand what the direct impact could be, and that's a clear example of broad stream economic opinion. In terms of, I'm particularly interested as someone who spent a lot of time working in Scotland alongside both the Scottish Executive and the Scottish Government, about the contrast that there is between the lack of economic data here and the wealth of economic data in Scotland. And we all know that the Scottish economy is a strong performing economy. And I think that really we need to move forward. We need to take this seriously. We need to look at the amount of resources that need to be made available to ensure that we have accurate, up-to-date and on-time information through which to understand our economic growth. It is not enough that our current economic strategies are marked upon departmental experience rather than key growth indicators. And it is not enough that our major indicator for economic growth is running 2 years behind. So it's time to move on and address those challenges.
I produced this report at the request of NICVA because there's a deficiency of economic data as it relates to the North in all sorts of areas, and we have a situation where we talk about the economy a lot, but we don't really have the economic data to support really proper economic policy making. That applies to all sorts of areas, to the very broadest measures like GDP, but also to some very hotly contentious political areas like fiscal powers, because we don't really have any economic data which supports the idea that there's the deficit the size of its claimed, the so-called subvention. So we don't really know what the expenditure that actually takes place in the North is, and we don't really know what the taxes raised are either. So what we have instead is an ill-informed debate, and that's never any good for anybody. I pointed out that there was a recent report produced officially about well-being in the North, which relied on 42 different categories of measurement, which had been outlined by the Westminster government. And yet, for 12 of those, they just aren't available in the North. And all of them pertaining to the economy aren't available. So that gives you some idea of how deficient things are. And really it matters to people because all of us are economic policymakers, and we spend or we save as individuals. Businesses do the same. They invest or not, they hire or not, and government does the same. So all of us need proper economic data on which to base some of our decisions.
The economic data that's missing, are you aware, is that data available to both the Scottish and Welsh Assemblies?
Well, I use the Scottish Government as the template for what could be done, because they have proper GDP data, they have lots of technical other data, which is very, very important to overall policy making. Also important to businesses, to non-profit making organisations, to trade unions, to everyone really. And they do it very well, and they've spent some money doing it. But it's actually very useful in terms of economic policy making, and you can't really move forward unless you know where you've been.
The reason for today was to have a discussion, an opening discussion about the economic data that we have here in the North, the economic data that we don't have here in the North that is held centrally at the British Treasury, and how we can progress the economy here by accessing that data, using it to best effect, and to give a true and real-time reflection of where the economy here really is.
Was there general agreement that this data was required and required now?
Well, I think it's a no-brainer. I think the more data we have here in terms of the economy, the better placed we are to have a baseline to set economic strategies in terms of the executive, in terms of the assembly, in terms of local politics in general. So I don't think there should be any resistance to this particular objective of getting more information from the Treasury to ensure that there's a greater resource put into this area in terms of NISRA within the Department of Finance personnel, and also the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Investment to put a greater focus on this area, because quite clearly from the statistics that we do have, it is quite clearly that the case that we are not recovering at the rate that we would wish to, and that there's a danger of us being left behind in regard to the rest of this island and indeed across the water as well.
Obviously our interest politically is in the creation of United Ireland, the economic arguments to underpin that. And if in one half of the island we don't have the proper data to support economic arguments, then that allows people then to advance arguments which aren't based on any fact, in terms of the level of subvention we receive, the dependency on the British Exchequer, all of these arguments that have no statistical information to back them up. So I think the proper access to all of the economic figures is key to us developing our arguments in terms of the benefits of United Ireland, the ability of a single island economy to sustain the people in this island and to be able to be in charge of our own economic future. And those are all key arguments we have advanced in terms of uniting this country. They are dependent on having proper access to information. I think it's no surprise or mistake that people like the Treasury or the Department of Finance here are less than forthcoming in terms of economic information. But we'll continue to chip away at that, and today's discussion and exercise, I think, pointed up some of the deficiencies there are and will allow us at least to continue the pressure to get those answers.